I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good evening, everybody. This is the December 2024 meeting of the Smithfield Township Planning Commission. All right, looks like we have everybody present except Nicole this evening. Okay. First thing, let's go take a look at our minutes. We have two of them in here. Excuse me, October 10, 2024. This is our regular meeting minutes. And then we'll move on to the other one, the joint meeting that we had. Yeah, look at these. Did I see anything off tonight when I read through them this afternoon? All right, I make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes.
I have a question, only one question about this. We have in this old and unfinished business of that meeting, consider draft ordinance number 282 bed and breakfast update. Have we had updates since then, or are we planning on having an update on that particular ordinance?
I have no idea.
I should ask Robert.
Yeah, I don't know. It only comes back. Julie's right.
I'm sorry.
That's all good. So yes, the board actually met and discussed that on Tuesday, so
Okay.
2 days ago.
Yep.
And the thing is kaput for now. They've decided that they want to break it up into two pieces. Sections 2, 3, and 4 were related specifically to changing an old zoning district, references that don't exist anymore.
Okay,
So we are going to take that portion of it and put it into the submission, changes that are pending as well for the number of paper copies we're required to receive.
Right.
The rest of the changes, which is the bed and breakfast portion of everything, will be shifted into a new and larger lodging discussion. And that is at a time to be determined sometime in January with the Board of Supervisors. So the bed and breakfast ordinance was not passed. It will not be passed yet because the board wants to go back through definitions.
will the planning commission be involved in this?
Absolutely.
Very good.
Just for your information, gentlemen,
Sir?
my feeling, one of the reasons I want to re-examine this is that in my own research, it seems like what we call a bed and breakfast is outdated. And we really should define what an inn is, what a hotel is, and whether a bed and breakfast actually fits under one of those definitions rather than trying to carve out something individual.
Okay.
That will be discussed. That's in the future.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, top of page 2, it says Francis subscriber. Is that should be Doug?
Yes. Related.
Fourth line down from the top of page 2, from the right side.
No, she was here in the audience.
Oh, it's not Doug?
No, it's his wife.
Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind.
Yeah.
All right, I second your motion.
Look at that.
Yeah, October 10, 2024. Okay, seconded. Any other discussion on those minutes? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. How about the ones from October 17, the joint meeting?
Oh, yeah.
Where did they go? Make a motion that we accept the October 17, 2024 minutes from the joint session with the supervisors.
Second.
Seconded by Chris. Anything else? Any discussion, excuse me?
Yes, could you just give me a moment, please? I see my name a lot there, so let me have a good look at this. Oh, yeah. Okay,
No, we're good?
yeah,
You sound as smart as you want to sound, Doug? You good?
that's as cranky as I want to
All in favor? All right. All right, those are passed. All right, old business. Franklin Hill Manor minor subdivision planning module table, what is that?
I wanted to simply leave this so it didn't get left off, that
Okay.
it can be tabled and no action is taken on it.
It can be tabled again?
Yep,
All
it's
right.
just sitting there.
All right,
Table
so,
again.
I'll make a motion that we table this to the, January meeting, which was at the 9th, I think.
Yes.
I second it.
I'll second.
All right, I seconds it, all in favor? Yeah. 25, following the 2024. Okay,
Have we made it clear to the, anyone in the audience who might be interested that this tabling issue was requested by the applicant? Was it?
it's just.
It wasn't so much requested as they just haven't responded to us yet, so they're not ready to be here, so de facto it was. I didn't speak directly with Franklin Hill, and they said like, yes, but they're just not ready to move forward.
Okay.
That's okay, Ron?
Yeah, I mean, again, if you think back, this was approved as a
Yeah.
conditional plan in April of
That's
this
right.
year.
Yeah,
Then what happened was they made some changes that they're now trying to
right?
work on or work out, and I'm never quite sure how that affects things, so I always ask for an extension, and right now we're extended through,
March.
I believe, this is January.
February.
I think we're January 15th,
Okay.
so we're good till, next month. Just to be safe, but it may not even be necessary because it's already been approved once.
Yeah, all right. So
But
we're,
I just never sure.
Okay, thank you.
And John just did today. He did his 9th review today of his plan. And he also did a quantity and cost estimate too.
Jeez. Okay,
all right, 3 Point Garden Estates subdivision. Who do we have?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Hey, Joe, you can call me Scott, it's okay, man.
I'm attorney Joseph McDonald, and I'm honored to be here tonight on behalf of LPS Builders, the developers of 3 Point Garden. This is a preliminary plan submission. It was submitted last summer. There's been 2 substantial review letters, the most recent November 5th of this year.
There it was.
Here tonight is
No,
Scott
this is
Engineering, Mr. Preston, who is prepared to address the letter, whatever sequence you wish to follow. If you wish Mr. Pressler to give a summary, but we're prepared to address the letter as well.
Let's start with you, John. Okay, this is yours, yeah, then we'll get, yeah.
Kurt, may I ask just one brief question? Where exactly is this located in the town? Well, that's, yeah,
We have a plan on our slide.
If I may. Project is located on 3 Point Garden Road, which is Township Road 2513. And the lot extends such that it also has frontage along Franklin Hill Road 563. So we have this contributed area.
Staff for Spring Lake, huh?
okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
I know you have small plans in your packet, but I did bring a pile of all the big ones as well.
We can share it.
Yeah, we can share, let's get a. That's fine. All right, so Doug, what are we looking at here? Because I see shared driveways and I'm going to go grayer than I am.
Yeah, I know you don't like them, but
That's right.
Go with them, I think.
I don't know that they're prohibited by ordinance. We do have our review letter of December 5th. The only zoning comment, which is always something that has to be resolved, is really about steep slopes and the disturbance being provided. The rest are saldo or stormwater comments. There still are, I'll say, a handful of comments that have to be addressed. Some of them are pretty minor, some of them are discrepancies between reports or other items on the plan. There are a couple waivers that I will let the applicant bring up himself. And other than that, I don't know that there's any, I don't think there's any game stoppers here other than your dislike of these.
Disdain would be what it would be.
Disdain?
Yes.
We'll move from dislike to disdain, but nevertheless, that's my short summary.
You should also know, Mr. Chair, that we have an extension only through December 20th. So that if you do not make any decision on this evening, the supervisors are gonna have to make some decision from this coming Tuesday unless.
One way or the other.
Yeah, unless a further extension is given.
A quick point of question on that. I have in my notes that they resubmitted, plans on November 4th. Does that not shift the submission?
If they resubmitted plans on their own as November 4th, then it would kick the 90 days from November
Okay,
4th.
so then their actual submission of, or deadline submission right now, because they resubmitted plans on November 4th, is February 2nd of 2025.
Okay.
If I may,
Yeah, go ahead.
what you have is updated plans submitted in response to the first review letter. To call it a wholesale revision for the purpose of triggering new 90 days, I think would be a little extreme. If the original plan had been decided and denied and we came back with a new
Well, if it
one,
had been perfect, we wouldn't be here, would we? Right? We would have to resubmit it if it was, we didn't need any other review, so.
we were responding to the, in good faith.
I understand in good faith, but I mean, it did require, it's a, you know,
Good faith is required of everybody in the room with a plan like this.
okay.
But we're prepared to address the comments of Mr. Fester tonight.
All right.
You can go
Well,
for it.
let's do that. Yeah, why don't we do that?
You want to speak to the zoning under the soil or the stormwater?
Certainly, certainly. The zoning comment, it's comment number 5 in the December 5th review letter that we received. And it's related to identification of steep slopes, obviously as the ordinance requires. Any disturbance for steep slopes has to be accounted for, and there is an upper bound on what that level of disturbance may be. Probably easiest to see on our C 3.1 plan, the shaded areas on the within the project area represent various levels of steep slopes. The lighter gray would be between 15 and 25%, the darker gray would be in excess of 20%. I believe the comment is in regards to lot 7, which is a larger lot running on Franklin Hill Road. Obviously, this site inherently has significant amount of steep slopes on it, and we did do our best to try and limit the disturbance in those areas. If I may go back to the C11 plan, in the bottom left-hand corner of the C11 plan is our disturbance table, showing what amount of disturbance would be necessary to construct the plan as shown. I'd also note that the upper bound, which I believe is 60% of the 15 to 25% slopes and 10% of the 25% slopes within the lot 7 column for disturbance, we are less than the township ordinance requirements. As far as how those slopes are determined, we typically do analysis of the existing grades through AutoCAD software to show what those slope classifications are. And that is something that I would discuss with Mr. Pressler, if he believes that there's a specific area that may have been overlooked. Where that might be.
We thought lot 7 had been low. Did you revise anything on lot 7, or do you believe as submitted it was okay?
I believe as submitted, it would have been okay.
Then I think we need a phone call.
So where are the numbers on the lots? Which one's 7, Ron, or John?
7 is the big one.
Oh, the big one, okay.
And we have the driveway cutting across steep slopes.
Correct. The driveway does cut across steep slopes, and as I mentioned, the classification, the breakdowns are as shown by the highlighted gray areas.
Yeah,
The driveway as depicted in this region, primarily crosses the lighter gray area, which is the lesser of the two slopes, the 15 to 25%, which I believe is a 60% disturbance.
Yeah.
Allowable, 60% disturbance.
And it may just require discussion to make sure we're both on the same page.
Oh, I certainly agree with you. The problem is I'm here before the planning commission. I have everyone's audience this evening. And, as I mentioned before, zoning comment can be, relatively tedious. I think in our preparation of the plan, we believe to address it. And just in kind of looking at the general layout before you. The other item is, I believe in the ordinance, there's a threshold for a minimum area of steep slope, with anything less than 3,000 square feet would not be identified as a steep slope. Perhaps the inconsistency is measured from that basis.
I don't know.
We'll have to look at it. Well, I guess it just, as a kind of eye test, regardless of what the calculation says, I would find it hard to believe that we're disturbing more than 60% of the light gray area with the driveway section. So, I guess that's really what I would like to get.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that you are.
Yeah.
It just appeared that your numbers didn't necessarily reflect what we thought was being disturbed.
No,
I wasn't suggesting you exceeded the allowable.
Very good, very good. That's excellent. Thank you. That's really what I wanted to try and get to the bottom. Thank you. So aside from presentation and perhaps cleanup, we believe we would meet that requirement. So,
Mr. Kressler, under the subdivision ordinance,
Well,
how many matters that you'd like us to address tonight?
I don't know, I mean, there's things like submitting a title report, boundary closure, things of that nature. I don't think we can address tonight. They still have to be submitted for review.
I believe the title report has been submitted in response to I said November 5th, it's a December 5th letter.
Well, as of our December 5th letter, we say it's still required, so.
Okay, it exists and we have submitted it for review.
Yeah.
This property was just purchased, I believe in 2023. Yeah, so we submitted the entire title report along with the searcher's notes. There was prior met easement on the property, which has since been released and is no longer effective tonight or on this property. I reviewed the documents. I mean, it's my opinion that they're clean. There's nothing that would interfere with the proposed layout that you see here tonight.
Okay, that's your representation. I'm just saying that we needed a title report. We haven't received it yet. I think, an item that needs to be discussed, you want some waivers from landscaping. We might as well make the presentation on that and list the waivers that.
it's your waiver request. Here we go.
Sure.
very good. We had submitted a waiver request letter, was initially dated June 28th and revised on November 4th. I believe that was included with the submission packets. In that requests were made for 6 waivers and 1 deferral. I'll begin with the first. This waiver is in regards to a landscape plan showing required street trees, buffers, tree protection areas, and a plan for tree protection during construction meeting the requirements of a specific section of this chapter, and that's required in your township ordinances. Due to the fact that our site is in an existing wooded area, and I say that with the understanding that on a site plan and on our survey plan, we typically show the tree canopy. We don't show individual tree species, trunks, diameters, information of that nature. And so I acknowledge that we're in a very vegetated and very rural area. The level of detail that we have on this plan may not be able to allow planning commission to determine what types of trees and what species are on this. So the landscaping plan typically specifies a count, a number of trees, perhaps of street trees, We would be prepared to go back and survey to show that either we do meet the landscaping criteria by trying our best to use existing vegetation that's on site, or we would supplement it if that would not be the case. We just didn't have that information at our fingertips, and therefore that was the waiver request, not to get out of doing it, simply to use existing species as much as possible.
Well, I mean, I can say that I certainly, I can appreciate that, but it's a lot easier sell for us if you at least start with something. You know, because, but I do understand, you've got, you know, the existing trees. I mean, it'd be nice to see, I mean, I drive by it literally twice a day.
Yeah, but we don't know if you're clear cutting the entire property.
That's what I was gonna ask next, so what do you, on this thing, are you planning on restricting, tree removal on these sites?
Well, that's an excellent question, and if you would go to plan that we have listed as, it would show up on our watershed plan or on our erosion control plan. And what you'll find on this plan is a heavy dash line, a bold dash line, is basically our limits of disturbance. So on our 11-acre property, I believe it was disturbance on about half of that. So to answer the
I'm talking
question,
about the individual lot owner, and I have a very specific reason for asking, go ahead.
the individual lot owners would be bound by the development will be bound by the limits of disturbance. And then if those trees.
Yeah, but they're gonna be restricted. Are they gonna be restricted in covenant and other form, or some other form, that they can't cut down more trees? I was here 25 years ago when LPS built development above me. They all had tree removal restrictions put in them, but no enforcement mechanism whatsoever. So it made no difference whatsoever. I'm asking you, are you gonna do that again here? I was here.
Did not consider the restrictiveness of what size trees they could or not cut. And as you point out very well, is that the enforcement of that becomes a very difficult process. That once they cut the tree down, an 8-inch tree, how do you get it back to being an 8-inch tree? It's already gone. And so the enforcement of that is almost impossible to do. I mean, our clients, we only disturb what we need to build a house and put a road in. And your question is very good about restricting through covenants. However, we're not inclined to do that, but we're willing to listen to this planning commission and the supervisors about such things.
Sir, may I have your name, please?
Say again,
May I have your name, please?
Robert Westlow, I'm the president of LTS.
Thank you, sir.
Well, actually, with the NPDS stormwater plan.
I'm sorry, so, excuse me, so we can get, for the record, give me your name, please.
He's the, our production supervisor.
Okay,
So a stormwater plan defines the area that can be disturbed. Is that the plan you have out there?
It should.
So it's a gray line, and the people are bound by that. It's in their deed that they cannot disturb anymore. They have to maintain the EMPs, but they can't disturb more without going through another NEPA's approval of some kind of stormwater approval.
How do they know that?
Yeah, it's for
How
certain.
do they know that? How do the people that buy that?
they are not.
When you say that,
They're swing sit and they go in the shop.
Right.
And how can we prevent that? It's their property. Because we recorded in their deeds. No,
Of course you can, absolutely.
Be there.
Right.
Yeah, they're building road. All right, what are the other waivers? Oop. What are the other waivers you're asking?
I will go over the next two waivers kind of in concurrence with each other. We've requested a waiver from curbing on the property and from sidewalks and walkway requirements. I'm sure most folks are familiar with this property. It is rural in nature. We want to try and keep it that way. And in addition to that fact, if we were to provide sidewalks or curbing, there will be no connectivity to any of the neighboring properties. Which currently don't have.
Right.
Like,
Nice, Chairman, and the audience here for a second. When we first looked at this property, 11 acres or so, and we looked at our various feasibilities, what we could do with it, and what we should do with it. And the ordinance provides that if I brought the central water down there, that I could have 20,000 square feet lots, which is smaller than the adjoining neighborhood. And most of those next door are quarter acre, third acre. These lots are almost an acre, and a number of them are more than an acre. One piece of property is 3 acres. So we could have had possibly 15 houses in here. I chose not to do that because I didn't feel that this property warranted it. Our people want to have some elbow room. I mean, I know we have a lot of customers in the city and they want the trees. And so can we control them? You know, it's how do you control the neighbors that are there today and not cutting down a tree? So we minimized the number of lots here because we felt it suited the property and not because I wanted the highest number of lots in this development.
Steep slopes. Anyway.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Could you build this? When you start to build, will you be able to pave this area where you're going to come into the homes where the proposed houses are going to be, and then work off of there, and this way you can take out the minimum trees and then leave the others undisturbed?
Well, Rick, we want to address the process. Let me think.
You're proposing to build this pave this here, right?
Got one more tweet from later. Once you got it. On this area, you know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you got that.
You gotta pave,
So
you have
this
to pave the road then.
This gray line.
Yeah.
That's called limited disturbance.
Right.
Permitted MPDS plan says you can only disturb to that gray line. So in the case of this line, the gray line goes around here. Then there's the driveway that comes through, comes back up, back across. So the areas behind there can't be clear. This area here can't be clear.
Yeah.
So that restricts it up front. That's recorded with the in the ordinance.
Right.
It goes through in perpetuity, the same.
Can that make it easier for everyone? Would it make it easier for everyone? Since you're paving this anyway, right?
That's what they're gonna do.
And then work off of that.
That's what they're gonna do. And that's what we do, and it's all calculated by the engineer. For the amount of square footage disturbance you have, everything, you know, stormwater is based off of that, so, we fair, they really use. They keep us very tight. Construction, depending on the PFDs that take the water.
Mr. Chairman, you know, part of what the Wyckoff is talking about here is that part of the planning process is we have a restricted area by which we can disturb. We don't have free access to just go wherever we want and excavate. We are restricted. We narrow this down to the smallest part of disturbance we can for a number of reasons. One of them is stormwater management. You know, we don't want to disturb the properties. So on your plans, you will see the indication of what we can disturb and what we cannot. And that's what the engineer talked about. I think our disturbance is what, 3 acres or something on 11 acres. That includes that house as well.
And before we start, the surveyor is required to come in and lay out that limited disturbance, so we have that line to go through. At the end, there's a survey done that says, okay, this is how much you disturb, so the process is followed all the way through to the end. So.
I think you said your last one was you were seeking a sidewalk and curbing waiver, is that right? Is that where we left off?
Yes, that is.
Okay.
That's in regards to the rural nature of the property. I don't know if there are no existing sidewalks in there, there's no connectivity.
Well. I mean, would you propose at the very least that there be a provision made for future sidewalks? Should they come to be connected to anything? I mean, the school is right there. East Shasbury Elementary is just down the street. So would you propose an easement along the side to put in future sidewalks? Because that's what we usually, look, when people ask for those waivers, that's what we've been requiring for as long as I can recall, as a, in a waiver request.
Sorry, are you suggesting that we create an easement provision in there for
Yes.
future use at some point? in
Yes.
time? Does that affect any of the other issues we haven't planned? Otherwise, I have no objection.
It usually doesn't affect anything else there, Bob.
I think we can accommodate that.
Yeah, that would be the, I mean, that
Just
would be.
provide us what, size easement you might need for this, we'll accommodate that.
John, what was it 4 feet?
Well,
Were they
your sidewalk will be 4 foot. I think
Yeah.
on the last project, we required a
Yeah.
10-foot easement though, because you've got to be able to grade it.
You gotta be able to get away from the road too.
And get away.
You can get away from the road, right? Yeah, that's what we did, just up the street.
So you're looking for 10 feet?
Yeah.
No,
1 second. Somebody's talking.
Oh,
Go to sleep. It worked out good.
now, one thing you should keep in mind, we have a comment, it's comment 34D. The change of grade between the 1% and 10% of slopes near the intersection with Franklin Hill Road exceeds 10% and shall be revised. I don't know how that works out with sidewalk in that location. I mean, are we looking at sidewalk along easement along both roads on
Yes.
this project?
yeah, 3-point card, yeah, Frank, no, I think we should have a provision for it.
Okay,
Are you looking for Franklin Hill side as well?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's on both roads then. An easement.
I often look at these sidewalks, in case like this, they're sidewalks to nowhere, maybe in 50 years,
Okay,
you know?
we'll all be long dead, and they can still build them, fine with us.
Just that it takes away from the rural nature of the property, that's all.
But the way we're going, it may not be rural.
No. We just wanna make a provision for it, for long after whoever comes after us, that's all.
Do that.
I believe that would then bring us up to our fourth
Okay,
waiver request in regards to lot requirements. Everything submitted the waiver request in regards to the frontage along the shared driveways. The shared driveways, as they come down to the 3-point Garden Road, have a 25-foot width property. I believe this waiver is no longer necessary because of the letter from the township zoning officer who determined that.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, what was that?
I believe this waiver request is no longer needed because the letter from the township zoning officer determined that lots 5 and 6 are field lots that comply with the ordinance. So I would not need a waiver request then
Okay,
for lot frontage.
Let me clarify this.
Yeah, thank
a little
you.
bit. I did not find anything in the zoning ordinance. Typically, you look in the zoning ordinance for what lots are, what type of lots are permitted,
Mhm.
that type of thing. I think it was silent on flag lots. So I requested that the zoning officer make a determination. Mr. Wolf determined somehow that flag lots were in fact permitted for zoning. I'm not gonna argue with his evaluation, that's not my place. However, Saldo is pretty clear that residential lots shall front on a street and have access to the street. I don't know if that's in conflict with the zoning. I don't know whether they still need a waiver, even though Mr. Wolf determined that the flag lots were okay. But the Saldo clearly says that you have to have frontage on a street for a lot, so I don't know how we deal with that.
I'm familiar with the different terms of both ordinances, and I've asked Mr. Preston to confirm that both proposed lots 5 and 6, as laid out, have frontage on 3 Point Garden Road and have the minimum 25 feet. We don't have deed descriptions proposed yet, that's down the road once the plans are approved. But a closer review of this would show that lots 5 and 6 are the proposed flag lots, and the fee simple title would extend down to the road. So each,
The one of the ones, Joe, the one of the ones in the front end.
they have frontage also. They have frontage also. The proposal, this would have to be fleshed out in an easement, would be the shared driveway for lots 4 sharing with lot 6, and with lot 2 sharing with lot 5. Lots 4 and lots 2, as 3 and 1, all have minimum, more than minimum road frontage along 3 Point Garden Road. Lots 5 and 6 retain road frontage through the extension in gray that you see here on the plan. So the comment on the more recent review letter concludes at number 32, proposed lots 5 and 6 do not have street frontage, and the waiver is still required as proposed. I respectfully disagree on that, with that statement. If the planning commission agrees with us that they do have frontage, then obviously there's no need for the waiver.
So lot 5 and 6 own the soil under the proposed roadway. And the ones in the front that actually do touch 3 Point Garden Road will have an easement over the land owned by the 2 otherwise landlocked lots in the middle. Is that what you're telling us?
Well, for vehicular access, there will be a need for a shared driveway. From the layout and design,
I'm talking about-
all of the lots have minimum.
Joe, I'm talking
road
about
frontage.
ownership and whatnot. Who? Are you saying those lots 5 and 6, those ones that are sandwiched in the middle? You're saying that their piece of road, what they own, their fee simple ownership will also encompass the roadways that go all the way down to 3 Point Garden Road?
That's correct.
And that the ones that actually touch 3 Point Garden Road will have an easement to go over the roadway that they don't own, but yet touch 3 Point Garden Road. That's what you're telling us, right?
That would be the shared driveway concept. That's correct. But in terms of frontage and design, they all satisfy the standards of the ordinance.
Did Mr. Wolf say that the 25-foot was the adequate width for a flag lot? I don't recall.
His letter of September 11th, which is posted on the township's website. I'll just read it. To whom it may concern, I have read the T&M preliminary plan review on the 3 Point Garden Road project. As per comment 2, that was the original zoning comment under your original letter, which deferred this question to him. Chapter 27 zoning does not define flag lot / lane lots. Both lots 5 and 6 have over the minimum lot width at the building setback line. I have determined that lots 5 and 6 of this project are buildable lots. So we might be confusing 2 different things, frontage and minimum lot width. And there are 2 separate requirements, but we meet 25 feet minimum frontage. And what Mr. Wolf has determined is that both lots 5 and 6 also meet minimum standards for minimum lot width.
Well, no, I didn't hear that from what you told us. I heard Mr. Wolf say that you met the minimum lot width at the setback line. I did not hear that the minimum frontage required was only 25 feet.
That's what the plan shows.
Well, yeah, I understand that, and Mr. Wolf said that the lots were wide enough at the setback line. I don't think he addressed whether there was adequate width on 3 Point Garden Road.
I think.
I mean, most flag lots in many ordinances where they are clearly permitted are 50 feet. Have a 50-foot pole is what they refer to it. So I'm asking where the 25 feet came from.
It comes out of your saldo for minimum lot width at the road frontage.
I did not see that, but if you can point that out to me, I would be happy to accept it.
It's in the comment, maybe, again, it's in the comment letter. Point out where the 25 feet width. And that's where it is on the gray shaded area. I do think there are two separate requirements. Saldo has a 25-foot minimum mouth, let's say, of a driveway,
Okay,
which the plan shows. The zoning ordinance has a minimum lot width for a residential lot of 125 feet in this district. We are in excess of that because by definition, we don't measure lot width at the mouth. We measure it at the setback lines. And there's nothing in either ordinance to prohibit a flag lot. In fact, the Saldo ordinance actually tells us how to measure the flag lot.
Is there just a plain definition of the word frontage? Taking into consideration?
I'm really sorry, who's speaking?
Jared Fredmore.
Thank you.
Whether it be in the zoning ordinance or the side. Pretty sure it is.
The flag lot ordinance.
We're trying.
Mr. Amore, if it may help, I prepared a memo on this specific issue and I'd be happy to share that with Mr. Tressler. I believe that helps justify Mr. Wolf's.
I'd be happy to review it.
Looking something up there. Trying to address Jared's question.
Yeah, can't find it at the tip of my thing there on my code, but.
Mr. Chairman, your code, I think it's 22-1012,
Yeah, so we'll.
number 4.
Street access driveways, is that what it is?
Yes, I believe that number 4.
But where it says 25 feet, I'm not seeing it, that's why I'm asking.
So section 22-1012, street access and driveways, number 4.
I'm looking.
It says, no dwelling shall hereafter be erected unless there is a direct access to it through an open space on the same lot. Such open space shall be not less than 25 feet in width and shall extend from the dwelling to a street. Every principal building shall be built on a lot with frontage on a public street or road improved to meet the township's standards.
Which that one by definition, those 2, 5, and 6 is how many 100 feet back? So there is no direct frontage or front yard on the public access.
The flag lot.
I know it's all a word game, but I mean, it's the first submission had a completely different setup of driveways where everything's at the perimeter. And I don't know if they completely changed it in the second submission due to the 100 comments that were put towards them from Tressler. Not really sure. Just, I mean, that was a lot of comments and 6, 7 months later, still getting 60 left over.
Mr. Tressler's review letter of December had 103 comments.
We'd be happy to explain from a design on why the driveway alignment is changed.
So I think this is the prior plan that you were referencing where we have the shared driveways to the perimeter of the site. And that's just the current plan. So we have, current plan obviously shows much less impervious area. Therefore, we also have less disturbance associated with the construction of the driveways. And we're keeping the disturbed areas more central to our site.
It had nothing to do with the comments that Tressler had on the first go round, which way that everything was laid out, it had nothing to do with that.
I wouldn't say that it has nothing to do with it. I'm sure that items would have entered in. I think our understanding was this was a more consistent plan with what the township ordinances were trying to direct us to do. And we still have a number of comments in this group to address.
All right, what do we need to do here, Ron?
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're done with the Saldo waivers,
sorry.
because there's a few more.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But that's okay, let me just address that at this point, your question, and that if I'm hearing from Attorney McDonald that he is not going to generally agree, and I'm not trying to be a wise guy or jam him, that the time has begun, and does expire on, you said February 2nd, is that what you said?
That was with counting the resubmission
Right.
of the second plan. If we don't use that date, then it is the 20th. So we
Okay,
can put
but
it
what date did you say it was if we count?
February 2nd of 2025.
So if he's not agreeing to that, then something has to be done by you gentlemen this evening. So that the supervisors then gets the plan on Tuesday and they do official action before the 20th of December. Comes here, if the applicant's willing to say, no, we'll give additional time. Based upon the now 103 comments by Mr. Tressler and the waiver considerations that we want, oh, then that's another story, so.
Okay. All right, your other waiver request, I'm sorry, I thought you were done with the mistake.
On the words, the fifth waiver request is in regards to the landscaping plan. This is basically similar to the first comment, the first waiver request. I won't go over that in detail. And the sixth waiver request was in regards to public water supply. Because we have over 6 residential lots, township ordinance requires that we would have to do a 48-hour pump test, monitoring wells to confirm that there's long-term water supply for this subdivision. I'm gonna rescind that.
Oh, you're gonna have a well for each lot?
Each lot would be
So each
certified.
lot you've got a test?
My understanding is it's a single test
Single test?
that can show that the aquifer has a yield to satisfy the 7 proposed lots.
Sir?
Apologies, and you said you're rescinding waiver number 6?
Number 6, I don't believe we still need to react. We'll have to hire the perform that pump test to confirm that the water supply would be adequate for the subdivision.
Sir, in reviewing Mr. Tressler's letter, there appeared to be a saldo deferral, I guess, with respect to road widening. And then also a waiver with respect to the water resource impact study. I did not see those on your letter of June, and I'm not sure if they were added since then or not, but are they still items that need to be addressed with saldo waivers or deferrals?
The only items I have would be with the letter that was stated as.
And just so I'm not jamming you, it would be number 30 for the referral with respect to road widening. Road widening, and it says on the top of page 7, a deferral was requested. And then the next one would be number 51, where he says a water resource impact study is also wrote.
That's correct, that would be provided, that is essentially the pump test that I would.
That's the pump test that you
And why do you
referred
think
to.
you don't need waiver?
I've rescinded the waiver.
Oh, you are going to do it.
All right, thank you.
So really, that just brings us up to the
Sorry, guys, we lost our connection.
Oh, okay.
Would you like us to continue or wait?
Continue.
I said, so the deferral request notes that while the project provides the necessary right of way, the shoulder widening dimensions are a nominal increase over the existing field conditions. Therefore, a deferral is requested in this section. And so if I may, I believe that was comment number 32 on our December 5th review letter. Essentially, what this would boil down to is an extension of, I believe, 2 foot of roadway shoulder along our property frontages. And so what we were originally going to ask for a deferral, I think that Mr. Tressler entered in his comments that a stone may be accepted in lieu of full shoulder paving. And I think that would be,
This is comment number 30.
I apologize.
Not 36.
It's this one, yeah.
And my comment was consistent with plans that
Yeah, we've done that before, we
did
yeah,
before.
yeah, that's,
That's why I put the comment in.
Yeah. that is consistent with what.
That would be required across both frontages, correct? With that general dimension.
Yes.
Okay. I'm not sure procedurally how that would look, if it would be it's not a full deferral request.
Hey, my question on the Franklin Hill side. Is that property such that it drops right off there? Talking about a lot of fill and so forth, add that to the deed. I'm not, you know, the Three Point Gardens, I understand that, but that road over there, there's to add 2 feet of gravel. I'm rebuilding that whole road. So and that piece of property is never gonna be used for anything other than one piece of house there. So I think we should be able to keep doing Three Point Garden Road. The other one just makes practical sense at all.
It's a very good observation. There would be an awful lot of material required to fill that.
We're talking about moving a lot of trees, a lot of shrubbery. That's reason.
Like drainage too.
And, you know, we haven't calculated what the stormwater management issues might address with that as well. So, you know, I'm trying to leave the property alone, especially that piece there. So.
Yeah, but that's not the whole way, right? From where the driveway pokes out on Franklin Hill Road down, that's okay.
I know you do go 3 Point Gardens twice a day. You should travel Franklin Hill and just stop
I do.
over there by the church. Take that little walk. You'll see. It's like.
I know Dick and Carol live right there.
Right
Right,
there.
yeah.
I'm good with the 3 Point Gardens, but not Frank. So.
It's a waiver would apply for the Franklin Hill frontage and stone material will be requested for the garden road.
Anything further, Jeff?
That is all of the waiver requests that were set forth in the letter.
I think that brings us into section, stormwater management ordinance comments. We have quite a few comments there. I believe the most material of the comments have to do with the fact that you haven't done your infiltration testing as of yet. So we really don't have good design for any of our stormwater management, because we don't know that it's going to do what you would like it to do.
Mike, or Mr. President, could you explain just basically with the infiltration testing, what it does and how it potentially could affect design, and whether it would be feasible to request approval contingent upon that, with the understanding that we can't proceed with final plan without having satisfied that?
Sure. And the plan 3.1 or C 3.1, our grading utility plan, essentially lays out our stormwater management concept. So what you'll see is on each lot, we have what we call out as a rain garden.
Yeah, here's, that's what circle, there's a rain garden, okay.
Yes, which is essentially to serve as our stormwater management facilities for each property. This will meet the NPDES permit requirements for volume control via infiltration, for water quality, and will also control the rates of runoff, which are all very important for our property and for the surrounding properties. The stormwater management concept that we have presented here, I think this is probably the first time that this planning commission has seen the level of detail that we do. So, obviously, we want to have the opportunity to bring this before planning commission before going off and performing all the infiltration testing. If perhaps there's anything fundamental to this design, planning commission may not like. I think it does meet the intent of the ordinance in terms of the limited disturbance, and it does meet the stormwater requirements associated with the project. And then that's something that stormwater reviews will occur on multiple levels. Obviously, it's reviewed at a township level. As we can see in the review letter, it was contemplated in Monroe County Planning Commission's review comments that we've received. It's reviewed on behalf of the Monroe County Conservation District, and it's integral to the component of the DEP permit and for the NPDES project that will allow this to go forward because of over an acre of earth disturbance. All of those stops along the way, if you will require the infiltration testing, and will require the infiltration testing that will ensure that this site works as we have it shown.
How deep are these things?
I'm sorry?
How deep are these things?
On the order of 2 to 3 feet.
Couple of feet, it looks like?
Yes, relatively shallow. So the infiltration testing, we've talked to a couple geologists who can do that. They can be out within a matter of weeks.
First quarter.
Right. And they'll do the testing that will show that we either do or don't support the design as we have shown on the plan.
Yeah.
If for some reason there is a feature that would prohibit us from doing infiltration, perhaps with a rock, perhaps with a high water table, we'd have to redesign the features in order to accommodate the infiltration test. But I guess what I would request from the planning commission is that if the infiltration testing supports this design, then we've reached our ultimate goal. If it doesn't, we would have to come back to you with another plan that shows a redesign based on the infiltration testing results.
Yeah, John, don't, when we do these, you usually show the stormwater calculations are shown right with these, right? That's not what we're looking at here, is it?
No, we aren't. I agree with everything that was just presented. But the question is, at what time of the approval process does the planning commission feel comfortable? I mean, for example, if you do hit rock and you can't put a infiltration basin in that location, and this is just hypothetically speaking, I have no idea what the site will support or won't, but let's say the 2 lots on the right hand side is all right. That could affect the lag, just because they couldn't get stormwater in there, because they're not using one big basin for the
Right.
project, they're using an individual basin on each lot. So the only concern I would have with the testing not being done at this point, and then them requesting preliminary plan approval is, and Ron, I think you're gonna have to get involved, preliminary plan approval does give certain rights to the developer, he can develop that plan. Now, I guess we could always, I don't know where the argument goes if he can't get adequate stormwater design, it's not unusual for a developer to say, listen, I've tested this entire site and I can't meet the isolation distance, the depth from the bottom of the basin to bedrock.
Okay.
And then he asks a waiver. So in this case, are they gonna ask for another waiver if they haven't done the testing?
But we've already given approval, possibly.
Right. So I don't know. It's something you've got to wrestle with.
Mr. Moore, if I may, and you're certainly familiar with the ordinance, and I've looked at this issue, and the bulk of the planning gets done, as we know, at the preliminary plan stage. There are some final items under your final plan review stage. But one of the elements of the final plan is that we must demonstrate that all conditions of preliminary plan have been satisfied. So it's a huge buffer or a backstop, if you will. And this stormwater design and infiltration test is actually part of an NPDES permit application, which, as we know, is an outside agency review. And if that is not obtained, then we're back to the drawing board. So I believe there are some protections in place in your ordinance, as well as the outside agency review process.
Chairman. Am I-
Yeah,
Your engineer brought up a very important part of what our design was about. You know, part of our feasibility study, we tried to figure out how to manage this water and so forth. And one of the suggestions was to put a huge detention basin down on the left side, on the south side by the church. And all the trees that have been taken away, and with, you know, and I said, absolutely. I wanted to control the water on each side. And so this is what we're trying to accomplish. This is what the Conservation District likes to see, us controlling the water on each site. And so that, that's why this design was presented to you tonight.
go ahead.
My personal opinion, this is a very messy drawing. There's a lot of open information and you're pushing us to make a decision so that the supervisors can make their decision. I would request that you extend it and get all this stuff taken care of. Because at this point, I'm not ready to recommend approval because there's just too many unknowns. I don't think I've ever had one this messy before, ever. It's just, there's just too many unknowns. And what's the rush? Why can't you get your infiltration done, get your, get your stormwater worked out, get your steep slopes worked out, and your title report, and make sure all these waivers are legitimate before we recommend approval. What's the rush? You can't dig, can't do anything until you get all that stuff. So what's the rush?
Well, it's not a rush. I mean, we have property. This is not a simple piece of property to work with. We acknowledge that. We've had some delays. In all fairness, this board has had some delays with us. The rush is not necessarily trying to get this to go. It's just part of business as we need to move forward. And you say this is messy. This is not necessarily messy. This is, if you deal these professionals here on the items that are before us and before you, they're very clear. And we're not about to spend, my choice, X dollars for all this infiltration system when I don't know if you even like our plan. And so I'm here to say to you, you like our plan? If you like our plan and you move forward with this, then I'll spend the money to do the expensive testing and so forth to see if it works. If it doesn't, as our attorney has presented to you, we have to come back because then we got to bring a new design to you.
But don't we have until the 20th? The township has until the 20th to either.
Township has, if we are going to take Attorney McDonald's position that he does not believe the revised plan extends to February 2, then you have only, when I say you, the township has only to December 20 to make a decision.
How was that determination made?
Well, you could say based upon 103 comments in Mr. Tressler's review letter, we recommend that the plan not be approved. Then it'll go to the supervisors on Tuesday for their action on that, unless an extension is given. Or you can approve it conditionally if that's what you want to do.
Well, that's
based
the thing is
upon-
there'd be a lot of conditions and there's a lot of open items in the engineer's letter.
That's your call.
That's what makes me nervous about it.
Well, that's your call to make as a planning commissioner.
Anybody else have any comments?
I actually like that last comment Ron made. That we could just say there's so many. What your comment is very clearly taken. And, there's, how many, 103?
103 as of the letter of December, what was it, 9, John?
Yeah.
December 5.
And it just sounds like an impossible. Too steep, what is it? Too steep a hill, too far a bridge?
Well, I don't know if it's, I don't know if it's, but it may well be that the commissioners may feel there are just too many conditions out there that we would like to see a lot of them buttoned up and then come back with a much less conditional preliminary plan approval. But again, that's your call. I'm trying not to jade the deal either way, because frankly, in full disclosure, my son works for Odd Consulting. So you should know that.
So let me address what you said, Mr. Westlow, regarding do we like the plan? I mean, there's some things that I don't like, but I'm not gonna live there. I don't like a shared driveway unless there's a very clear agreement between the owners as to who's responsible for the driveway, and I haven't seen anything like that.
There will be, there has to be.
Yeah, there has to be. And as far as the flag lots and the lots 4, 3, and 2, whether they have, if that meets the criteria of the frontage and I don't know, that's really an engineering decision. But the only thing I don't like is the shared driveway. I don't like the steep slopes not being known what we're doing. I want that clarified. So in my personal opinion, I don't love the plan, but if it meets the ordinances, then I'm okay with it. What I don't like is all the unknowns. So maybe that gives you some direction.
How many unknowns are there out of the 103?
One of
I
the
don't
things,
know. That's the unknown.
one of the things that part of this plan is that I did ask the engineers to avoid the flag lots because I had suspected that this planning commission was not in favor of flag lots. I know we have them in our community already. And so I said, show me something that works different. Well, what works different is I end up putting a cul-de-sac in there. I end up disturbing a lot more property. I end up with close to 10 lots instead of 7. And I said to myself, I don't like this plan. Open it up and only make it 7 lots. That's why we have the plan here today.
Could you have done that and still stay within the steep slopes criteria?
Yeah, because now I can bring water to the place. I can go down to 20,000 square feet. per lot.
Even without disturbing the steep slopes?
Bring water from where,
I
Bob?
just cross the street. It's only 500 feet.
Where, brought in authorities across the street?
Up Wolf, was it Wolf Drive or something? Or up, toward the big tank.
Well, I like the fact that there's only 4 driveways as opposed to 6. Because that just means more congestion. But
So I met with the water project. We talked about that. And to bring water, then I have to have density to make it pay.
Mhm.
And I just didn't want to do that.
Right.
So this is one of the reasons why we're not central water here.
okay, so with what I said, what would you do in my position? Would you recommend approval on this? I mean, how could you?
So. Okay, fair enough. So I'm gonna put myself in your situation, if I could. With a plan like this, it's complicated. There's a lot of issues. I don't see them as being, showstoppers in the sense of it's just not going to go forward because the conditions that can be placed on this, all the engineering issues that are in front of us, we still have to face the conservation district and the NPDS permit. So that's a whole nother set of complications that we have to go through besides this organization and the supervisors here. So, I would like to see a recommendation with all the restrictions that you wish to place upon us. Let us go see if we can get rid of those issues and satisfy those conditions so that we can then move on to the supervisor.
Before the supervisor's meeting?
5 days before Christmas.
No. I'm not sure that I, unless I have different advice to tell me to go to the supervisor, but I'd like to have preliminary approval from you tonight with conditions, so that I can tell these guys, go fix the conditions. And then I can go spend the money for the infiltrations, testing and so forth, to see if this thing really works or not. And that's what I'm looking for. Put the conditions on it.
Yeah, but my problem with putting conditions on it is I don't know, I haven't read all of this 102 comments. And there may be something in there that I miss. That's what makes me nervous about this messy drawing.
I mean, to add to the messy drawing comment. You said it perfectly, because there are elementary things on those drawings that should be taken care of. Dimensions over top of grade lines, things like that, multiples, I'll tell you, it's elementary. From an engineering standpoint and a professional drawing to be submitted, which is perfect wording of messy. I mean.
See, I guess where I'm sort of got my back against the wall is this potential December 20th deadline. That if we don't, we being the township as a whole, don't approve it, then it could result in a lawsuit, it could result in something else, and we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that it's a clean drawing.
We do too. We want this.
So why can't we just take it to the next step? And give us an extension and make sure you get all the
To
comments
me, the
addressed.
next step is the preliminary with conditions, so I can go ahead and do the testing and all the other things that happen. I need, when are you gonna do the,
But you weren't here last month either.
The month before that,
We didn't have the comment letters in time.
You've had multiple comment letters since June. I don't want to hear it.
No, we've had two, and the most meaningful one, Scott, came out 30 days ago. I'm sorry, 10 days ago, or less. And in between, there was a planning commission meeting that, for everybody's vacation, and back in the summer, there was no meeting because of the lack of a quorum. Again, it's good faith on everybody.
There wasn't anything on the agenda. It wasn't for lack of a forum. I'm here for all of them. I've been here for 7 years. I've been here for all of them. Except I can count on one hand the number of meetings I've missed.
I appreciate the time.
Yes.
And in all fairness, we talked about 103 comments. This is a cumulative letter, as the engineers like to do.
I take exception to that. We do not do that. And I'm gonna stop you right there, Mr.
It says
McDonald.
satisfied, comments satisfied. Many of these are satisfied. That's what I'm trying to say, John. I have great respect for your detail. I'm not saying it's useless. I didn't mean anything like that, John. I just meant that many of the comments from the prior letter have been addressed, and that's recognized.
not all.
I didn't say all of them. But to say that there's 103 outstanding items, I think is misleading. With all due respect.
Some have been addressed, I agree, and that is stated in my letter.
I don't know what to make.
You can make a motion to grant conditional plan approval based upon whatever conditions you believe are appropriate. You can make a motion to deny, to recommend now.
Yeah,
obviously.
right.
Recommend denial of the plan based upon the outstanding comments in Mr. Tressler's review letter of December 5, 2024. And I agree, many of them have been satisfied, so I just spoke.
Well, I don't like doing that because I know you
Or you
guys
can
are,
do nothing.
yeah, well, it's doing
No.
nothing is the same as recommending denial.
Yeah.
I don't like being put in this position. I don't like having to say we deny it because, we want to see these things move forward, but it has to be done right. So I'm inclined to, at this point, because of the way you're presenting it, is to deny it. It's my opinion.
Mine too.
Is that a motion or?
Not yet.
Discuss.
Not yet. We're just discussing. Chris? Anything? Oh,
I don't have an issue with putting a bunch of conditions on it at this point.
Good.
But
There's a hundred.
I guess point of information, regardless of what we decide, the commissioners can do whatever they choose. We merely recommend.
we've been listening.
So,
You mean the board of supervisors?
yeah, the board of supervisors.
I was just asked by Mr. Lovenheim, There are 103 comments on the letter. For our previous discussion, just a few minutes ago, 40 of those have been satisfied. So just to give you a sense.
Well, normally you go through all the comments and we have a chance to understand the significance of them. We haven't even done that. We're really pushing time here. And we've talked about all the things that we don't have and haven't even got to this comment yet. So I don't even know what the comments are.
You know, just to help, and again, I don't care one way or the other. I don't think the steep slopes are going to be disturbed to the point where it's going to change the plan. I think that's, I think it's a matter of documentation. A lot of the comments in this letter are because information has not been provided, like closure reports, title report, some other things. We have some grading issues. I think they can be worked out. And in my mind, the biggest, which is the biggest part of any project anyway, most of the time, is the stormwater. The stormwater, I mean, the stormwater, we have 103 comments. We haven't evaluated the stormwater yet because we haven't been given the information. So that's, to me, the stormwater is the outstanding issue. I don't think there's anything else in this letter. If you're agreeable or if you're inclined to grant the waivers that have been requested. And there isn't an issue with the lot layout, which apparently there isn't. I think the biggest unknown is the stormwater. Now, do I think it's not going to work? I don't have an opinion on that. There are many projects that are designed this exact same way with stormwater management on each individual lots, and it works just fine. I'm just saying that we didn't look at that yet.
I mean, nothing can be done until that's done.
The applicant hasn't looked at it either. They've just drawn a bunch of things on a map. They've already admitted that they need to look into it.
Right, they haven't done their infiltration test yet.
We're gonna make a motion. I think there was one.
So
I'll get to you next. This one first here.
Yeah, I just got a couple.
Yeah, no,
Like, is there a point where?
Name, please.
Oh, AJ Cole.
Thank you, sir.
and then get to you, Bob.
I'm sure there's a lot of like frustration with neighbors and stuff.
I understand.
My wife and I bought the Ayers house and like, yeah, it's beautiful there. And we just have a couple questions and I was wondering, when is the time to actually address the questions? Because maybe you guys could answer it or just like that before you make a motion, just so you're aware of problems. I mean, if you drive that road every single day, you see the river that was running down it yesterday. And then between, you know, our house and Dick and Carol's, there's another river running through there too. So I don't, it's just a really big concern. Obviously, we're upstream, so it's like, it's not like that's gonna, but it is gonna affect people down. And I understand, hey, you know, you gotta figure out that whole thing. Man, that is concerning, the amount of water that runs through there without houses on it. And I get like building houses on it, like I appreciate putting as minimal as you guys can. But if there's like any way to do one less, make there be some more sort of land, you know?
Is that Bob? I understand.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest that, in response to the messy part of this comments and so forth, to go ahead and give you an extension through, January or something to allow
I was gonna recommend that.
this engineer,
That will make it a lot easier on us as well.
this engineer clean up the messiness and some of the clerical issues and so forth in this, and get some of your staff to watch each of these papers so that we don't have to worry about a page number or something. Meanwhile, you can work with John, with regard to some of these technical pieces that we can get them, and maybe you can get the comments down to below 40. And
So it's January 9th. So you want to put this on the agenda then for January 9th, and then,
Yes.
and then that'll bump it to whatever it bumps ahead for then whatever the supervisor meeting is after that,
Yeah,
probably.
let me just check.
And then we'll,
So looking at the calendar, obviously the board has not determined when their meetings are going to
I
be.
understand.
So just assuming, what we've
next
done in the
available.
past, yeah.
okay,
Just in case, but for the sake of the extension, which you'll need to provide before the board determines when their next meeting is. If you would kindly provide that extension through Wednesday, January 29th, 2025, that will make sure that whatever Tuesday the board decides to fall on, we will be able to make sure that the board can see this before the extension
I can do
expires.
that.
Thank you.
yeah, let's do that.
And so this gives us an opportunity to clean up the stuff,
Yeah.
technical parts. Everybody can think about what the best solution of this is. We're gonna schedule up the infiltration system right after the 9th.
Okay,
So that then, once we get that information, I would like that to be a condition aspect of the planning commission. You know, those conditions and so forth, and then the engineers can work through the calculations and see if all this stuff works. Meanwhile, part of the reasons why we're looking for the preliminary approval is that once that is in place, then we can go to the county conservation district for their review, because now we have a set of plans that we feel comfortable about.
But don't you have to have the infiltration test done by then?
Yeah. We'll have a set of plans. They'll be looking for the same information that John will be looking for.
Yeah,
I mean, there's 5 engineers that look at this set of plans throughout this process. So, you know, there's a lot of eyes on these projects, and there always is. So stormwater, as John pointed out, is always the biggest issue.
yeah, and it's the biggest for us too, because that seems to be the one that's affecting the
And this
neighbors more than
property,
anything.
as I said, you know, part of what the NPDS permit will do is it requires us to keep our water on our property.
yeah,
So if there's other water, that's another entire issue. But our water, we have to keep on this property. And that's what the design is about. Thanks, engineers will make sure it's.
But will you also look at water that's flowing down the street so that that's managed properly? As it's flowing across your property?
No, if it comes across our property, somewhere along the way, we've got to address it somewhere along the way,
yeah.
okay?
Because that seems to be one of the big concerns is,
But, you know, I'm not sure that we can hold that water. You understand?
understood. But maybe there's a culvert pipe that
But
helps direct it to where
there
it needs
is
to be.
part of the requirements. There's the quantity and the quality of the water
Mhm.
that we have to address
Mhm.
on each of our properties. So they will make sure that works.
Well, thank you for the
I'm not,
extension. It makes our life.
not sure that it'll help the whole big project, but we purposely stayed away from Franklin Hill Road for all the right reasons.
All right, okay.
If I may,
Sir, may I have your name, please?
Tim Shelton,
Thank you.
I own 2 properties on Franklin Hill Road.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys, I don't know, if you guys of LTS have reviewed my packet that I submitted, but there's some serious stormwater issues going on there. And I don't care what type of calculations you present on paper, it's only gonna make it worse. Having a high pressure gas line exposed 2 times across from my property is very concerning. I think it would be concerning for everybody. So I know you said this is a difficult project. But you guys are gonna run in, I live there, I do this for a living. You guys are not gonna get your infiltration, I can tell you that. We're on solid rock. So there's just no way this is gonna happen, even if you want to rearrange everything and put 10 houses in there with your other water supplies, you're gonna have that much more impervious surface. This particular unique parcel of land is very difficult, which you acknowledge, and it's gonna be very difficult. So, yeah, you guys I thank you, John, I thank everybody for what you guys been doing, your excellent work and looking at everything, but this is a serious problem. You know,
Okay. I know that.
I guess.
Tim, when we do all of these, and we've done many of them just in this strip along.
Yes.
90% of our discussions deal with stormwater on the top of our hills.
Right,
We know.
right,
That's why we're so insistent on it. We know.
and I appreciate it, you
Yeah.
know, and I'm so glad I have the pictures
Mhm.
from all my documentation, it's just very concerning. And we're not saying don't develop, but back it down to 4 houses, have that much more, seepage area. Because these or the rain gardens, they're known, I believe, it's a good idea, but they don't always work. I've been asked many times in my profession, to fill them in. People are like, oh, and then the people fill them in themselves, so who's gonna make sure everything is managed after everything is built? And these start to fail, or the resident decide to fill it in on a weekend behind, the, closed doors, now all of a sudden, we're gonna suffer. All of us residents are gonna suffer because of things that fail. So what's your backup plan for something like that, or even just a backup plan when these rain gardens fill up and they get to capacity and they overflow, they won't be able to handle the amount of water. You don't have like another retention area that can fall into. So everybody is gonna suffer when we already are suffering. That's the issue, like 3 Point Garden suffers damage along the shoulders and the lower properties. The church, we're just already suffering, so you gotta sell us something better than this. I just don't see it. I've been doing this for 25 years. And I'm just not seeing it. So again, I appreciate the board and everybody that you're doing. Thank you for seeing what we're seeing, and thank you so much.
Right. All right.
Oh, one other quick question too, is I didn't see anything in the minutes, so maybe I didn't see it. What about drilling and blasting? The pre and post construction inspection of our.
Yeah, but that's not as part of the plan.
Wells, the foundation.
That's not as part of the plan, though. Those things have to come, and if there is, there'd have to be a pre-blast report. There are things they have to do as part of the building process,
Okay,
but that's not for the subdivision.
in there.
It's not as part of the subdivision.
Right, but you can see our concern.
Okay, I know.
And well, the water, everything, so, okay,
I know.
all right.
All right, so we'll move this to whatever our initial meeting will be, January 9th in all likelihood. Right now, hang on. All right, so we'll do that. Bob, you're gonna get the extension letter over to the township, and that'll be fine, and then we'll get that together.
There's another question.
Okay, well, I'll get to you in a second. You have anything else, Joe? That we need, or are we good?
I appreciate everyone's time here.
All right, because I want to get to the
Thank you
last
for
public.
for your questions.
All right, yes, sir.
Michael Avicini, 24 3 Point Gardens Road. Thank you for the time.
Can you spell your last name? for
Yeah,
me?
yeah, no problem. It's I-O-V as in Victor, A as in Adam, 2 C's as in Charlie, H-I-N-I.
Thank you.
Avicini, thank you. So thank you, council for having us, commission for having us. Last time we came, we were not given the chance to speak publicly, which I believe is an ordinance. If that's not correct, please let us know. The last time I spent my time coming to the meeting, we were not given a chance to publicly comment. So we definitely appreciate the chance to publicly comment. That's the first part. As citizens, obviously, 2 things. It's kind of been voiced a couple times that there's a concern about the process that's happening. So most of the constituents are not against the development. They're not against developers. They're not against the business aspect of the arrangement or the economy, et cetera, but there is a process that has to be recognized. So our ability to speak on this is obviously important. So we were not given that chance for many planning commission meetings. I'm not going to dwell on it, but some point, that's gotta be addressed. We should be able to speak at every commission meeting. That's an ordinance, as far as I'm aware. And then a lot of the other things have been addressed, the drilling. The stormwater drainage, we would like the chance to speak on those things further, obviously, and the consultants agency and the developers are using language like, we're doing our best to limit the disturbance, or the eye test says that it won't be a disturbance, or it's my opinion that the documentation is clean. So those are not objective measures that we can all agree upon to move forward. Those are subjective commentary by the people trying to push the project forward, which again, you're allowed to argue your points, and as are we. So as a constituency, I want to just say that we want to have the chance to talk about it, which tonight is actually the first chance we've been able to do that. I do appreciate the fact that we have been given this chance tonight. It has been denied previously, as far as I'm aware, since June, July, August. I believe there was a letter sent out that was notifying all of the residents of 3 Point Garden Road and Franklin Hill Road about this. I didn't receive a letter until November 4th. So if it wasn't for my neighbor, Tim, I would have had no idea that this project was even under consideration. So that again goes back to the process of involving the constituency. As far as I'm aware, the letter had to be sent out at some point over the summer. Again, 24 3 Point Garden Road, didn't receive it until November 4th. So the language that's being used about how we want to do our best and we're avoiding the disturbance as best as we can, yada, 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 that's not satisfying most of the constituency. And also this whole process, the concept of operating in good faith. To me, it's obvious. Now I'm going to state an opinion, but to me, it's obvious why we want the preliminary approval, right? The preliminary approval allows then the plans to be continually changed. The preliminary approval allows the contingencies to be worked out without our input, or at least as far as I'm aware, once it's been preliminary approved, that's a step in the process that we're not going to then reverse. So the fact that we've had a chance to at least comment tonight on the record prior to the preliminary approval process is meaningful to us as a constituency. This is all just off of my notes from the meeting. So again, just thank you for the opportunity to speak to you guys. So the stormwater drainage is a problem, obviously. The nature of the process being in good faith is a problem. The pump testing and things like that, obviously we'd like to discuss further. There's questions about how valid is this pump test? Who's the engineer that does the pump test? Et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot to talk about with each of these details. So to try and dismiss the 103 comments as a cumulative letter that's already been addressed is absurd. There's a lot of detail and complexity on this property. I've lived across the street from it my entire life. So again, we're not against the development. We're not against there's a lot of different bullet points that I personally have zero problem with. A lot of things that were discussed, the tree locations, the future ability for the sidewalks, the shared driveways. Personally, I really don't care about those things. But what I do care about is the process. And what I care about is our ability to provide input, which hasn't been provided until tonight. Let me just check my notes quickly to see if there's anything else I want to say. And then ultimately, we look forward to the ability to speak on it again. And the fact that we're considering preliminary approval versus an extension would give, my opinion, would give people more time to digest the complexity of the situation, as well as to continue to provide input to the commission. Just give me about 10 seconds here and I'll just wrap up my comments. So thank you again. Yeah, so the last thing I'll say is essentially the fact that the preliminary approval wants to be rushed does not speak to the then contingencies that will have to be addressed regardless. And as the commissioner himself said, Mr. Amori specifically said, I've been here for 25 years when LTS built something and then couldn't enforce it, or put something in place or an ordinance or some type of rule, and then it couldn't be enforced. Now I'm coming from Philadelphia. I've lived in Philadelphia for 6 years. I've also lived off and on in Guatemala. Everybody knows from those areas that there is law and there is enforcement. There are two different things, right? So essentially,
as a constituency, we want to be able to have some type of assurances, some type of guarantees, or some type of, alleviation of our concerns that we are being heard and that these things are gonna be enforced, or that they are gonna be addressed and not just bulldozed through, which is what has obviously been tried to be done. I say that in goodwill, in good faith. I'm a member of the community. I would like to eventually be a part of these types of councils. But it has to be done correctly. We can all have differences of opinion, but the process has to be respected. Thank you.
All right. Then we'll see you back here January 9th. Sound good?
Gonna be a motion taken, or is that already taken?
Make a motion, we table this until next,
Till next month, till January? Okay,
Yes.
okay. I thought I did, but
no, we didn't, we didn't.
We did not. Okay, I'm sorry. I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
That's all. Okay. All right, guys.
Alrighty.
Sorry. Thanks. I got sidetracked. Sorry about
That's okay.
that. All right. PA Commons Realty? Anybody hear from them?
I did contact the applicant, I haven't heard back from them, so I left them on the agenda in case they appeared.
Okay,
At this point, given their lack of appearance, if it's okay with
no,
you,
let's just take it
I'm
off.
gonna pull them and.
Yeah, they can ask again to be put on, cause I thought under the new business, wasn't it? Is that Healthy Minds should be covered all?
Madam Manager,
Let's open.
Yes, sir.
is that the plan I have in front of me that says JPSPA Realty LLC?
Yes,
So even though it
JPS
says PA Commons,
PA Commons was the development and JPSPA, it's also been commonly referred to as the Sheets schedule.
Okay.
They're all the same.
The sheets.
okay,
So that's that one, so,
that's good.
yeah, I thought we said we were gonna take that off, right? But maybe we said leave it on one. I don't think exactly. No, that would be June of 23.
Yeah.
Actually.
Are we really gonna discuss the lighting ordinance?
I think we're good with the lighting ordinance, huh?
Yeah,
I think we're set on that one, right?
not quite.
What do we need to do,
Well,
Alex?
except to say that they're not being enforced.
No, this is the new one, so. What is,
The new one,
Yes.
sorry.
So I won't take much of your time.
that's okay, Alex, that's fine.
Total change of subject here. The lighting ordinance, as you recall, you saw this a couple of months ago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
The county did a formal review of the lighting
Okay.
ordinance. You have that in your packets there.
Yeah.
They had six comments.
yeah.
there it is.
And the Board of Supervisors on Tuesday discussed those comments.
Okay,
And there was considerable discussion on enforcement provisions. So do the commissioners want to talk it? Well, this was, so anyway,
well, let me ask this, because I think we've done our part here, right, as the planning commission?
yeah,
Is there, before we get any further, is there anything that we actually are required to do?
this is an
Okay.
FYI, the Board
Thank
of
you, okay,
Supervisors.
all right,
This document here.
that's this one.
Yeah, so the Board of Supervisors have asked me to incorporate some additional enforcement language
Okay.
into the draft ordinance. This would then be reviewed by Ron
Yeah,
and rediscussed, but in that new form with Ron's review by the supervisors, at which point if they're favorable with the content and modifications, if any, by Ron, then it would come back to you for formal
for
consideration.
formal consideration, then, and then it moves on to become ordinance.
Correct, Mr. Chairman.
All right,
The only question I had when we discussed this, Mr. Chair, is whether or not, again, as I said earlier, whether this is de facto zoning, and should it be under the zoning ordinance
no,
as opposed to standalone?
standalone, Ron.
Well, that's what we were talking about. That was the only discussion really.
No, I think it'd be, from my standpoint, I would consider it a regular police power that any legislative
I
body.
think you can, again, as
Yeah.
long as they then put in the saldo and zoning, that you will comply with the lighting ordinance.
Yeah, that's what-
32 is amended and blah, blah, blah.
Do I have to get out my picture? No, that sounds good.
We're good.
We're good, thank you.
So we actually have, I see, a lighting control officer. An LCO.
Now, let's talk about, I guess we're good for the special exception one? The special exception ordinance, is that what?
Yeah.
We're good?
Yeah.
All right, so Ron, 2 hours ago we started we made a reference to this. little more than 2 hours ago.
Yes.
So this looks like this is in a section that they wish us to review in.
Well, there was discussion with respect to what should be part of a special exception provision or provision, since our ordinance seems to be a bit sparse with respect to those requirements. And I'm looking at these things again, these are policy calls, they seem reasonable, they seem to be,
Right.
make sense, it's just a matter of making certain that we haven't missed anything, but as far as I can see, unless John tells me something differently with respect to an engineering point of view. Again,
There's gonna be
nature
one-
of the activities.
You want me to hit one
the
thing?
operation.
I'll tell you what.
Actually, jump in on this really quick.
Hang on, I'm gonna tell you one thing. One thing you missed. They didn't miss it, but number 2, at the top of the third page in, instead of a little section sign, you accidentally hit a dollar sign. Very second.
Oh,
one.
yeah, I see it.
Yeah, just circle it. That's- We got it.
Okay.
We got enough people thinking that kind of
It's on my
stuff.
mind when I do this stuff.
Yeah, fair enough, man, I hear you. All right, yes, Julia, sorry.
So the reason this is before you is because you last saw this on October 10th.
Yes.
And you provided 2 suggestions. The first was to add following additional standards regarding traffic, stormwater, sewage, water, all of that jazz. I did not add anything directly to the ordinance related to that because of the dollar sign question that you wanted to. I wanted feedback about this. The last part of the packet demonstrates what section 27-705 is, and it does discuss lighting, landscaping, stormwater management, and all of those things that are required. So just by nature of the reference in number 2, special exception use requirements, we've hit all of those requests. The second part that you guys had requested, which I'm actually going to put on pause because that's the complicated one. We did receive the letter from the planning commission. They had 2 substantial comments. The first one was to explain why we wanted the copies that we did. You'll see that that has been added in bold under item 1A7 to explain why we want our copies. And they also requested and suggested that we added language that the zoning hearing board has the authority to impose other conditions, which is the other bold and underlined portion on number 3 on the second page. So from that, really the outstanding question that I have for you.
Oh, I see. Because the zoning hearing board's a quasi judicial body, so, okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense, yeah.
So
okay.
the last outstanding question with this is, you had discussed adding some sort of provision for relief that, can require, basically a waiver of special exception criteria, the way I listened to it. If you're going from a simple change of use. This is specifically related, you guys were discussing non-conforming uses. And somebody brought up the gem keystone, like if they wanted to change their sign or move it, should we make them go through the entire special exception, rigmarole, let's call it, for a smaller change like that? I don't know how to incorporate language that would allow that to happen, but let's say if there was a special exception, use that had already been, and for the members of the public, we don't currently have anything in our ordinances related to special exceptions, except that if you have non-conforming use, you have to do something. But if somebody had something that was non-conforming, like a strip mine or something somewhere, and wanted to change it into something else, how do we make sure that people can't sneak through a provision like that? And I wanted guidance on what specifically you were looking for, so I could better put that in here.
If someone would want to change the special exception use language, they'd go out, they'd apply for a variance. Go in and ask for a variance that you want the zoning ordinance changed or modified, or whatever word you want to use with respect to that provision. I don't know if you would put a separate provision if it's a smaller use, you don't need to file a special exception. I suppose you can, but then you have to make sure that the performance standards and other things with respect to that smaller project are very clear.
And that was basically my concern. So then we need that provision.
Not. Not leave it as it is. I recommend leaving it as it is, Julia. With your underlying one. Question, interesting question. Why does the county planning commission care what copies you get?
I did look into it. There are other, municipalities in Monroe County that explain where it goes to. I don't personally understand why it matters.
What is this issue? Oh. Yes, moving right along. I mean, that falls off the, what skin is it off their nose, right? Okay,
That would be my question.
yeah, really, I mean, we asked for a couple of copies, okay.
All right.
So-
Actually, now that I've said that, this, thank you, and whoever in the audience mentioned it, I don't think we have anything in here for a full digital copy. I'm going to add that.
An additional digital copy?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
yeah.
all right. That makes it easy then for people to be able to see when you,
Yeah.
when you put it on their
also
website.
Substantially saves
Right,
staff
you-
time.
I know.
and things.
I know, even though we don't tell them. but we said that. All right, so do we need to make a motion on this?
I needed clarification, so, at this time, I will make and complete these changes and give it back to the board. The board will look at it and then send it to you guys again.
Okay, so then we'll come to, just like that,
Yep.
that's fine. I just wanna make sure we don't do it. Okay, we'll do that. That's good. New business. Healthy Minds Treatment Center sketch plan. All right. Okay. Hello,
Hello,
thanks for waiting.
Ryan Troutman, I'm with Barry Ice Associates, I represent, the developer's engineer. We're here tonight to present, just to go through the sketch plan review, on the plan, and I'd like to introduce, the developer, Dan Harvey, just to give a little bit of background on the use and what's anticipated on the site.
Okay, yeah, why don't you start? That's probably a great spot to start. Tell us about the use and what you anticipate. Sure.
Yeah, so I'm Dan Harvey, I'm an operator in drug and alcohol rehab centers. So this is a 60-bed facility on 32 acres. Yeah, it'd be state of the art, up to all the codes, and we're excited to bring it to this town.
And where is it? Exactly, where, I can't,
It's on, just north or south of Cherry Valley Road.
okay.
On Tots Gap Hill
All
Road.
right, all right. Okay. So,
You've been before us.
yeah, this has been before us.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've seen, it's been through the
You
condition.
weren't here
reviews
the
hearing.
last time, though. I
Sorry,
don't think you were here the last.
I was not. The previous engineer, Chuck Nicholas, he's retiring, so I'm taking over for his projects.
Okay.
Well, what's the proximity to, the old, Water Gap Country Club?
I believe
It's
it's
now a hotel or something.
It's fairly close. It's just over, I believe the Water Gap Center is just over here. So it's, I think it's over the hill and there's, so it's fairly close. I mean, it's on the golf course. Or the same golf course, I believe. So it's pretty close.
It's within sight line, particularly at night from each other.
Okay,
Sightline, is that what you said?
Well, from this location, at night, you can definitely see the other, Water Gap Wellness. And during the winter, with the trees down,
Okay,
it's right there,
got it.
probably less than half a mile approach wise.
so that's a new building.
Correct.
Oh,
So yeah, so we submitted a sketch plan. We've gotten a review from John. And I don't know if you, when John,
You did some preliminary, some quick review on this, I assume?
Yeah, it was a quick review. I mean, it's a sketch. There's not a lot to review. As I think everyone knows, they've been through the conditional use process, so a lot of stuff got vetted at that point. One comment in here is, you know, documenting steep slopes again.
Right, yeah, I mean,
Something that
we'll,
should be done.
yeah, we'll take care of that with the land development submission.
And, really not much more. The one thing we did notice, which I believe is of concern, that always comes down to stormwater, there is a buffer. And we believe that you are proposing some activities in the buffer which are not permitted to find.
Yeah, so these small dash lines on the plan here. We had, a little bit of the parking lot that extended into the buffer and some grading. There's some room on the site that we'll reconfigure the parking lot. To get all the grading and the parking out of the wetlands buffers.
Do you need all that parking?
Yes. Yeah, by ordinance, I think we need 83 spaces and we have 84 spaces.
How many do you need for your own use? If there wasn't an ordinance?
That, I don't know.
We're talking about 60 to 70 employees,
Oh, wow.
not at once,
Okay, but how many do you need on a given day?
maybe 40 at a time.
Because we're trying to cut back on parking if we don't need it. It's in the works, we change the ordinance.
Yeah, if we can, I don't know. Yeah, we can definitely reduce the parking if that requires a deferral or waiver.
Well, it's just less impervious and it's less stormwater and
Exactly.
what we've been doing is saying, okay, make it what you need. But I'll have an allowance should you need to grow it to what the ordinances say, you can do that.
Sure.
Is that acceptable?
Yeah, if it's, James, right, if it's one thing that we are open to, it is reducing the number of parking spaces, like,
Okay,
we don't need like the 500-year parking event.
understand.
All right,
And it saves you money and it saves us impervious.
and it saves impervious, it saves impact that way.
But then again, we don't want to see it parking, in the storm drainage areas, in the grass and make it real.
Understand, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, we can reconfigure that parking lot to get.
And that'll get you out of the setback that you addressed too.
So what type of wellness are we talking about here?
Drug and alcohol.
Drug and alcohol rehab?
Is that a fire access around the back?
Yes,
Has this been looked at by the fire department at all?
we have not submitted it.
I mean, you ought to have them look at it before you get too far along.
Yeah, since this is just a sketch plan.
I know,
we
but
haven't
now's a good time to have
submitted
them look at
everybody.
it.
So when we come in for formal, preliminary review, then that's when it'll get distributed to the fire marshal, zoning officer,
Yeah.
the county planning commission.
Do you have public water or is this gonna be on lot, well?
Right now, we're proposing on lot, a well on lot.
Same with septic?
Septic we have proposed on lot. However, one of the comments is, since sewer is within 5,000 feet of the site, we have to connect to it. So it's actually 2,000 feet to the east on Cherry Valley Road. So we're going to it's just inside the Delaware Water Gap Borough. There's a pump station, so we're gonna we'll contact them.
Or do you have to go down the Cotscott Hill down Cherry Valley Road?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it will actually require, a pump station.
I would
Our
think,
property.
that's quite a pipe.
Yeah, it's about 2,000 feet of pipe. But if it's a force main, it can probably be, 3 or 4 inch diameter, something like that.
Oh,
So it's 60 beds. How many floors?
2 floors. Yeah, it's just under 27,000 square feet of the main building. And then there's some ancillary buildings there. One's a storage building and one's actually a fire tank and fire pump. That we'll have on site.
How
Did
many?
you say 27,000 square feet?
Yes. Yeah, the letter says 13,400, that's one
Times
floor,
two.
so it's 2 floors.
Okay.
It's huge.
Yeah, so one of those buildings is a fire tank and fire pump, so ultimately if we connect to public water, you know, we may not need that second building that's on the left-hand side there.
What's the one on the right?
Storage building.
Okay, so what are you looking from us? What are you looking for from?
So on the comments, as John mentioned, you know, steep slopes will document that. There was a comment on traffic study. We'll document that we don't meet the trip requirements to have a traffic study, so we'll submit that with the formal submission. Lighting and landscaping, obviously.
Even
we'll address.
with 40 employees at a time, plus whoever comes and goes?
Well,
I
it'll
don't know
just,
what our traffic, what we would require to study.
it's 500 trips a day or 50 during the peak hour. By our estimate, we're right at 370 trips a day.
Do your clients, whatever you call them, do they have cars and do they come in and out or do they stay?
No, they won't have cars.
So no cars and they're pretty much there for a duration. Okay. So it's really just the employees that are doing a regular, what about visitors?
And service.
It'll be once a month, you have a visitor on the weekends,
Okay,
but it's limited.
okay.
And your servicing vehicles, the food deliveries, your.
That's also be.
Linens, right.
Yeah, some items we're looking for feedback from the commission tonight are, there's a requirement for road widening. So we have approximately 2,300 feet of frontage on Top Cap Hill Road. We were wondering, you know, looking to see, you know, if the commission would consider, you know, a reduction in that amount of widening. Say if we were to widen from Cherry Valley Road to our, up to our driveways.
How much of that is in Smithfield? All of it?
I think our entire property is. Yeah.
It is.
Township.
It's all,
It is, Chris? It is?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do we require?
And Top Cap's already public road, right?
It's a township road.
Township road, isn't it?
Yeah.
yeah.
Our ordinance requires it for all.
But why do we require widening of the road? Is it all the roads are less below the standard?
Less than ideal. And we have an ideal standard and. I would say that if you are in an obvious high growth area, you would probably want to enforce that standard.
Yeah.
If you're in other areas where you don't anticipate a lot of growth, you want to. Allow a waiver.
So in that widening process, does it take care of like drainage and culvert pipes and all that stuff too?
Yes.
So how much would they be obligated by the ordinance to do?
All their site frontage.
The entire site?
Really? That's the way the ordinance reads and it's how it's interpreted. Yeah, we would be asking for a waiver or deferral just because there's a lot of existing brush screening. You know, so the road goes right to the toe slope. So there's a natural berm that's already created and, you know, shrubs and brush that are gonna help, you know, screen this facility from the adjoiners.
Virtually no additional traffic, right?
Correct, yes. That's the consideration that a planning commission has to
Yeah.
evaluate. I mean, you've got a rural road, you have a development. So you really have to weigh the needs of the development for an improved road versus trying to retain the rural character. And if you don't think the development is gonna have a significant impact on the road use, you may choose to want to keep the rural character of the road as it exists.
And we can do, we can make, we could sort of, yeah, we could sort of massage that
Yes.
and make it so that there's provision available for, yeah.
But there's also a lot of open land there that could be developed in the future, right?
Yes, it is.
So if we miss this opportunity.
Actually,
Yeah.
sorry, not to interrupt, but actually there's not a lot of a lot of this land is, shown better in this plan. So we have a lot of steep slopes, to the north of the building. you know, that we can't develop. And a lot of this area in here is considered the wetland buffer. And the Cherry Valley Creek actually flows on the property as well. So there's the DEP riparian buffer and steep slopes along.
What about outside of your boundaries? Further up the hill,
Down this direction?
either way.
Yeah, what's down there?
Well, yeah, the property, I mean, there's more, it's off this plan here, but there's more steep slopes. Down in
Yeah,
this
but I'm
area.
saying not your property, but up the hill
Oh,
or further up.
So 1.25 miles up the road, it's about a 15 to 17% grade. I have video of the water that comes down that road in a violent fashion.
That's Todd's Gap Road.
That is Todd's Gap.
Yeah, yeah. I know.
And quite
gonna have
frankly,
to
this
improve.
property is the natural gathering point for the water from the
Yeah.
very top of there.
So I'm thinking about the request for a waiver in widening the road, and we said that the reason we would want it is so that as traffic increases, you want a better road.
We
So,
also have, an excavation company that is, sorry, Scott, grandfathered in, give the R1 zone. So there are triaxle trucks, there is big, like he does big paving jobs, big excavation, he's got roll-ups with us. There are big trucks on that road, and
Yeah,
it's
so
a
that's the
narrow
kind of
road.
stuff then that we would have to,
It's a very narrow road.
you can propose in your plan, then we'd have to hear these sorts of things.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
yeah, because also this area on the south side of Todd's Gap is an existing residential development, so that's already built up, and there's a few homes along here as well, so there's, you know, as far as immediately around here, there's not a lot of future development coming in. So that leads me to the second comment, is that for discussion is a sidewalk along our entire frontage. You know, there's no other sidewalk out here.
so it's the same discussion as a
Same,
previous.
yeah, so the same.
It's the same discussion, it's every time. We just want an easement for future.
Right, understand.
Yeah, that's a much better thing for our board to be able to accept than to accept a waiver of the sidewalk. We'd rather have a provision available for it to be put in the future for sure, at the very least. Yeah, Chris.
The road is also, very frequently used by hikers from the AT.
Yeah,
Is up on the top and it is,
Yeah,
and,
that- yeah, they-
school track teams use it
yeah,
for
they used to run across
training, they
country.
still do, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
So you would prefer to grant a deferral rather than a full waiver, is that?
not so much a deferral, so we really, we are generally looking for, at the minimum, an easement along your frontage.
For future.
For a possible future sidewalk installation, should these things come to pass.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be offering the full dedication of the required right of way. Like right now, I think the existing right of way is like the old 33 feet wide. So the ordinance requires 50 feet, so we're gonna be dedicating right of way to the township, so you will have that.
You can put it all together, I'm just telling you the kinds of things, you're asking kinds of things that
Okay.
we like to see as part of this.
Sure.
This is part of what we like.
Understand. Yeah, those were the,
Okay, hang on one second. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I forget your name.
Oh, AJ.
AJ. okay.
My question is just like, how many drug and rehab centers do we need? I understand the plight, I really do, like, I'm an addict, I understand it. But I also live here and like have grown up here. And you got now Water Gap Country Club. Over in Middle Smithfield Township, you have like the one that is completely run down and people are just wandering Fritchie.
Hillside.
Yeah, Hillside, they're just wandering around Fritchie out on the 209. And then this is the Delaware Water Gap, which is, I mean, I would say maybe a jewel of our area. And I get the plight and it sounds so like cold-hearted to be like, come on, how many do we need? But again, how many do we need?
It's not for us to decide.
I know, it just feels
That's a
better,
good point.
it just feels better.
I hear you.
Answer that. Got it. Can I answer that?
Yeah, sure.
It's fine.
Hang on, man, hang on.
There will
We'll
be
get,
no
I
more,
promise you'll be next.
Oh, I
Fran.
didn't.
there will be no more in the R1 zone. Since this was approved, passed an ordinance, outlawing anymore. They can be in the ED zone, which is our commercial zone, which is along, the three highways.
Yeah.
209, Milford Road and 447. That's the only place.
Yeah, I get the whole thing, it just feels better, at least like.
I understand. Yes. Okay.
Fran Perry,
Yeah,
you may have already said this, and I just was wondering, in Pennsylvania, are there levels like of rehabilitation centers, like level 1, level 2, I mean, that describes the type of facility that you are and the certifications that you have? Or that doesn't exist?
Yeah, I can't speak on that at the moment. I know this is a full service drug and alcohol rehab certified by the state, but I'm not sure on the level.
I think that would be, personally, I think that would be interesting to know, because there are a lot of requirements for ones like Alina Lodge, which is over in New Jersey, I don't know if that still exists.
Different state, but.
Pardon?
No, I think the planning commission would like to know those answers to those questions too.
Yeah, there's a souvenir.
Levels of.
Well, they couldn't operate without state.
without a state.
No, but I'd like to know what levels of approval a state.
I mean, for our own edification, it would be quite interesting, but for our planning purposes, Doug, I don't think,
Not relevant.
it doesn't,
Probably not.
no, but it doesn't fit in any of the things that we can actually recommend them happen. That's the problem.
Well, that's too
The
much.
use is whatever the use is, I mean, there would be one thing to,
But there are levels of use.
no, the use is the use, zoning use and use for your state licensure, they're not the same.
Right.
I just don't see it for us, and that's,
It doesn't add much draw though to come to this region. We don't have a lot of things in this town that really like stand out, make people want to come to the Poconos, and then it just seems like the way that we are planning the city, and no offense to any of you, but it just seems like as a new resident in this area too, it's like where's the charm, where's the character about of this? And you guys talked about that in the last city planning meeting, like why aren't people coming here? And then it's like, if you have subdivisions everywhere all the time and rundown areas, like that doesn't make people that like a character or quality want to come to this region.
Well, that's a big discussion.
Ma'am, may I have your name, please? Brandon Colba.
You have to go to the state because they're the ones that tell us. The municipal planning code says that we have to have uses throughout the township. It would have been better if they did it by the county,
Yeah.
where the county as a whole had different uses. That way you could have all the industry in one area and have it more rural in other areas, but we're playing the games of the adult.
No,
And it's too big to change now.
government.
Big to change.
so you're gonna be submitting a plan at some point here?
Yeah,
An actual plan for full review. Or John, we can engineer. Yeah,
Can I ask John a question?
you can do whatever you want.
John, a question with regards to the conditions that the supervisors put on the conditional use approval. Okay. If I recall correctly, there were conditions on lighting that were reasonable above what is in the saldo.
Yeah, I mean. I don't recall the conditions off the top of my head, but they are something that do definitely have to be observed in your land development submission process. Do you have the conditions there, Alex?
I don't have the conditions in front of me.
Okay, but it's a good point. Good thing you brought it up, so that.
We're aware of the conditional use conditions and, we'll make sure, we address those with our submission. Some of the conditions were as well to work with the township on placement of the building, screening of the building, et cetera. So, that's, as we go through the process, we'll. address
Well, that's one question you might want to ask right now, because. If you have to work with the township on placement of the building, I mean, that's the beginning of your whole plan. So if. You want to put the building there. That's fine, and I don't know how much. authority of the township would have to suggest to put it elsewhere, but you may want to ask the question, and you're flipping to a plan which shows that you don't have much room to put it elsewhere.
Exactly.
You got steep slopes, you got wetland buffers.
Right, yeah.
You got a road and you gotta fit everything in there, so.
Correct, yeah, we're squeezed in, with restrictions, and one is the preference of the developer to, to place the building sort of at the top of the hill, so they have, the view down over, to the Cherry Creek, something, that is appealing, to the clients. I don't know if does the commission have any comments, suggestions?
Yeah, they're temporary residents.
Yeah.
Brett?
I'm sorry, I'm new. How did they get R1 zoning to build this place?
No.
He just left.
Yeah,
Oh,
he'll have to ask him,
Yeah,
ask him.
ask the supervisors.
I can tell you that supervisors voted to, allow this to be in the R1 zone.
By accident.
I don't know by accident, I think
They said it was a mistake multiple times.
well, they might have said it was a mistake after it was done, but at the time it was being done, I don't believe they thought it was
No,
a
they
mistake.
specifically said that the decision, the township decision on the landowner curative amendment signed September 22nd, 2020, was a site-specific landowner curative amendment for the Water Gap Wellness property up on Mountain Road. Jacob and Robert both said out loud in meetings with witnesses, they never meant that ordinance to be throughout the R1 zone.
I understand what they say, they may not have meant it, but that's the fact.
They
of what
said
occurred.
specifically that they thought it was site-specific to the Water Gap Wellness property.
That's what we
They
said.
said it, it's on tape.
Well,
They
good
said-
thing we don't have to make any decisions tonight.
That's it.
All right, can we?
Will, your clients, your patients be, court ordered or just on their own volition coming to the facility?
Voluntary.
Voluntary?
Everybody who walks into drug and alcohol rehab or residential mental health is required to sign a statement of voluntary attendance. Everyone, it's not just their facility, they're all. It gives them buy-in into the program, and it covers a lot of asses.
Excuse me, is the Water Gap Wellness, the word of wellness is a little confusing. The Drug and Rehabilitation Center that used to be the Water Gap Country
Okay.
Club, what is that now?
They claim it's an inn, but they bus their residents to off-site facilities on 447. So they claim it's an inn, but we can't stay there. And it's an inn that actually accepts Blue Cross and Blue Shield. I don't know many Holiday Inns who do that.
So it's still a drug rehab.
I thought we were told most recently that it's a meeting center, right?
An inn and conference center. is what they-
Conference center.
So they don't do treatment on site is what you're saying?
They allegedly do their treatment off-site.
Well, that's not, look, that's not what we're
There's
here
no
for.
connection to
Yeah,
this.
let's get late, let's get this moving.
Yeah, we gotta,
So,
we're gonna move this along. So your next steps are gonna be to submit something to us for a more formalized review, correct?
Right, yeah, we'll make a formal preliminary plan submission,
Do you have a timeline roughly when you think maybe?
probably,
During the
next
winter?
month or two,
Okay, that's fine. All right.
with the holidays coming probably.
Well, thank you. Thank you. What, yes, Chris?
Can I just go through some points with
Yeah, Chris,
John?
we got, can we move along with this? I'm not talking about the R1 thing.
No, I want to talk about John's comments.
On what, on the sketch plan?
Yeah,
You're gonna get in about a month and a half, you're gonna get full on with the preliminary plan filed.
so wouldn't it be better to address some of those things now before they do that?
We're gonna move
they
on.
will address them once they do their plan.
We're gonna move on this one. Okay, we'll do that. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Cicadas, oh, we got this, Cicadas minor subdivision.
Okay, we're gonna be a little bit easier, I think. Okay.
Oh,
This property has been before you before with the sketch plans,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
okay?
Gotta stop meeting like this.
I mean, seriously,
I think we have finally settled on a 3-lot typical minor subdivision.
Yeah.
Okay, each house, the existing houses will have its own property, its own lot. Make them conforming. We're proposing 1 new building lot. It has frontage on Franklin Hill, but it will access from the existing driveway with a shared driveway agreement. To a certain point on the lot, so there will be no new driveways built on Franklin Hill Road.
you already were cutting the trees down, right?
The theory was, we know the road, but it's to create a sightline.
Okay.
When you get to that coming out
Mhm.
of, in out of judgment. So yes, there have been.
Yeah, I saw the stumps and such, in the last couple of months.
Some should be cleaned up.
And there was stormwater issues.
Okay. So you are submitting this tonight, is that it? or-
Yes, we're just bringing this in for acceptance for review.
We sent a letter recommending you accept it to start the clock.
Okay, so we can start the clock as of tonight?
Yep.
Alright. Then I'm gonna make a motion then that we accept the final minor subdivision plan of the estate of Nancy Lechitis for formal review. I mean, seconded by Doug Scriber. Okay, all in favor? Oh,
Thank you very much.
hallelujah.
Easy breezy.
Sorry that we wait so long. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I usually don't have this one.
Should have got you in earlier.
We can't comment on it. I'm getting steamed about this.
Okay, you can be steamed. Next, the Act 5, we're gonna, Chris, we're gonna get to it when we're done. All right?
Okay.
I wanna get through these other ones and schedule our reorganization meeting. So Act 537, what is that update? Why do we have that?
I gotta see the names are pronounced.
Ben Wallowing.
Yes.
Ben Wallowing.
The sewage company, they wanna sell their plant to Pennsylvania American.
Oh,
The town, in order for that to take place, the Townships Act 537 plan must be amended. In order to amend the Townships Act 537 plan, the Township Planning Commission must send a letter saying that they're approved of the change. You are getting short notice on this. I mean, the letter came in on October 22nd. You must act by December 20th unless Mr. Karasak says you can ask for an extension. I don't know that there's a whole lot to consider.
What is the change they're asking?
Just change the ownership.
change of ownership.
Yep. Now, I didn't want to duplicate work effort. The engineer for the Township Sewer Authority did put together a memo. He found some inconsistencies between who they're actually surveying and what's on the plan. I thought you might be getting a letter from the Township Sewer Authority, but I don't think you got any yet.
No, I don't see it yet.
But in my opinion, I read it, it's only a name change. You may want to make a recommendation that you're in agreement with the change, subject to satisfying any comments that the Township Sewer Authority might have. Or if that makes you uncomfortable,
I just don't see what our role is. That's my.
it's legislative, that's how it's set up. Any change to 537 plan has to be agreed upon by the Township Planning Commission.
So what if we don't agree?
They'll probably do it anyway, but it'll take them a lot longer.
And this way Pennsylvania American Water would take over the infrastructure and the maintenance and all of the rest of it.
Yes. It's not uncommon. These-
No, it's not, they've been strong arming in Pennsylvania, America, a couple of these different companies to take over these smaller systems.
Even in Pennsylvania, American didn't
Yeah, I
want.
heard that a couple years
Yeah,
ago.
they've been
This
strong,
was-
basically, they've been
this was
strong
back
arming
in
them,
it, yeah.
yeah, they've been doing it in a number of ones. I mean, I don't see any problem with recommending that they move ahead with it, do you? Did anybody say anything?
As long as they meet the conditions, right?
I don't know enough about it to even make a recommendation one or the other.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm on the element.
Where it is up there?
Yep.
Yeah, so,
I am too.
oh, in the village, okay. What do you guys think, you all right?
If it's just changing.
Cause you're still gonna get you still get a sewer bill, right?
Probably be a lot higher, but yeah.
You're okay with it?
Pennsylvania American Water, that's what they are.
You're okay with it?
Well, if he's saying it's just the name of the owner changing, yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
all right, then I'll make the motion that we recommend approval,
second,
As long as they meet those conditions.
as long as they meet the state conditions and.
Well, I would say recommend approval based upon them satisfying any comments from the Smithfield
Oh, the
Township Sewer
Smithfield,
Authority.
okay,
oh, right.
based upon, yes,
That works.
for the Smithfield Sewer Authority.
I
comments.
second that.
All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
All right. So we need to have a reorganization meeting,
Yeah,
You wanna have it?
generally,
January 9th, sound good to you?
and
Perfect.
we can go, if you wanna start everything at 7 o'clock, we can do the reorg at 7. And then as soon as that one's complete, move directly into the regular meeting.
Yeah, that should be fine, but yeah, let's do it all together.
Okay, I'll get all
It'll
of
be
it,
like 7, basically it'll be 7 and 7:15.
Thank
more or less, but I'll
Alright.
advertise it immediately, so you can move straight into it.
Okay,
I'll get it advertised.
Motion to adjourn?
Well, there's public comment.
all right, now,
Whatever.
We have one.
Chris,
Thank you.
hang on, so here's the thing. To be perfectly blunt, I have no idea why this township bothers reviewing sketch plans. They are so, they are so preliminary and so generally, I mean, they can ask to be reviewed and so forth for comment by the engineer, but the reality is they're often significant changes by the time it comes into us for the
Right.
preliminary,
Exactly.
for the preliminary plan. And so while there's, you know, I guess in one sense, a decent starting spot in that there's a dialogue open between the township engineer, between John and the homeowner, the property owner. There's really not anything for us to even bother to,
Well, there is, there's John's comments that
Yeah.
you're not even aware of.
right, but we're gonna become
So-
aware of the actual comments we need to act on when the preliminary plan is filed. It's gonna be generate a new letter.
Okay, I guess so.
No, that's what happens.
Oh, it will.
It's not, I guess so,
Right.
that's what happens.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
but,
we've been in a lot of these meetings, that's how it goes. And then at that
but
point,
there are also questions that I have about this that only they can answer too.
and when they start the clock, when they file their plans for the preliminary approval, that starts the actual timeline where we have to have it, it has to be reviewed, it has to come through the planning commission with their various waiver requests and comments to be satisfied
Right.
as a result of the engineer. And at that point, yes,
Well, if I can say one thing
sure.
about John's comments, subdivision and land development ordinance comments number 6, a site visit should be arranged. And I truly believe that y'all should come on out to where we live, because you'll see what the hell we're talking about. You can see the other place right from there. We're gonna be lit up like a Christmas tree, and we are dark sky. Come out at night, come out and stargaze, and come out, and the bats and the owls and the fox and like we are.
Is there anybody that is more in favor of that than me, Chris?
Me.
And quite seriously, what have we been pushing for months?
I understand that, but,
Quite
you know,
seriously,
and it's already bigger than their conditional use application. They've already added 6,000 square feet to the building.
Didn't you guys lawyer up and?
But we're still in litigation, we still have 2 court cases going on.
Okay. Okay, yeah, Brett.
I appreciate what you're doing, seriously. John, you were on the hot seat there with LTS, and it takes some serious stone to deal with those people. Bob probably spent $3,000 on this meeting tonight. And things get, I never heard this room so quiet, waiting for his lawyer to speak. And it's, and your point about how to reorganize and not look at sketch drawings is really well taken. Things get really tense in here and the meetings are getting long and long. People are getting tired. And if there's a way to streamline this or extend meetings, take a break, chill, because 2 or 3 hours at the end of the meeting, I want to make a comment. People don't want to hear me speak. I mean, why do they want to hear me anyway? But you know, I've got I heard Bob Wislow say, and I don't know if I can handle the stormwater. And you, I'm sure you all heard it, but in my ear, I live on Kendall Creek, right below the LTS development. And we've tried to sue them. That lawyer costs probably $700 or $1,000 an hour. We can't sue them after the fact if what they do doesn't work. And that's our only recourse is here, and they'll probably sue you and you can't afford to fight them either. This is something that needs to be handled with major preparation. When these guys, I never seen anything like that. I mean, you know, they're like corporate lawyers and they're gonna come in and they're gonna roll right over us. And I appreciate Christine's point. It's tough sometimes when you're at a long meeting, you want to get things over. I had questions for them as well, and we didn't get a chance to ask them, and we will get our chance, and I appreciate that. But this.
When they only meet once a month.
Right, yeah, so and I think your workload is only gonna increase. So I would hope that you'll find a way to mitigate the tension in here. At the end of a supervisor meeting on Tuesday, I do my usual Gaffey Drive thing, and the supervisor out there didn't want to hear it. He didn't want to hear it, and I said I'm respectfully going to push my issue along. It's just my little issue. Except this all Gaffey Drive. At 2.5 hours, they don't want to hear anything. They want to go home to their kids, and I want to go home too. And
They're here to hear it, though.
They're here to hear
That's why
it.
they
So I
signed up.
empathize with you, with the workload you guys. But and I'm here for every meeting. I see what's going on, and it's really tough. It's getting tougher, and I haven't seen LTS operate until tonight, and I appreciate the pressure you're under. So I applaud the pausing on that, and so anyway, kudos, thank you very much.
Thanks. Have a good night.
I make a motion.
Yeah, I think we did.
So gonna give him a call. Second. All in favor, aye.
Yeah.
Long drive. Check out that.
I hear you.
My question was, I wanted to